Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Epic Guy Radio. This is TIM. I'm your host, Tad Al, where we rise. Today, we have a totally different topic. I want to say I've been trying to come at you all at least twice a week. I've had some technical difficulties the past few days, so I've been trying to. I don't know if some of you all were catching the other video that I was doing, but it was you couldn't hear me. So I had to delete all of that, come back, start it all over again. So here I am. So we got that fixed. I'm back. I'm trying to get my sound card and everything working. So I have to have a technician come in and look at some of this stuff. But anyway, let's jump right in. Today's subject is today's fall of man. you know, um, the change in manhood from one era to the next is what we're dealing with here. Uh, some men are going to get upset. Some men will agree. Some people will disagree, but that's what this is all for. So, be my guest to chime in with questions or comments. I will do everything I can to try to answer you here live. Um, Soon we'll be doing live calls and uh, conversations. So that will be part of where we're going with this. Anyhow, so let's like I said, let's jump in here on this. The concern that we have right now is basically, what's happening to the guys today. And we have to start with the men today because it always starts with the man. Whatever's going on, fellas, in your household or in your relationships or whatever, it's because it's what you have allowed. We as men set the tone, we set the standard for everything that's going on. I heard Jay-Z say once, everything that happens to you is for your greater good. I believe that statement, personally. I really do. Because if you don't go through it, then you won't get to where you are. Like if everything that I've been through, everything that I've experienced is what got me here today. So, when you look at it, everything that happens for you, some people I'm blessed. I'm one of the people that I believe have been blessed to still be here, considering what I've gone through. A lot of people don't make it through that. I don't, you know, people will count it as oh, you were strong, you were stronger than somebody else, but I don't think that is necessarily the case. I think that comes down to who are you listening? Are you listening? Are you learning from the lessons that are coming in your life? You know, um, I don't want to say that people die because they don't learn their lesson and they keep making the same mistake. I mean, because you have like children that die, and like they didn't do anything. I had a daughter that passed and she didn't do anything. She was 10 months. So it's not, I don't think that's the case, but, I just think that the creator does things in the way that, he does. I was watching a movie called Your Honor, and I heard a girl say something, because I guess her dad was telling her, like, hey, look, he was wanting her to have a belief in God just for the sake of her mom at that time. And she's like, okay, I'm supposed to believe in this guy who just decides, okay, today I'm going to go down here and kill this teenage boy and have him taking his last breaths on the curb. It was pretty interesting to hear that point of view like that. But to this point of view, we're looking at how men are changing. A lot of men are they're starting to accept more female qualities than men did before. For instance, Back in Western days, you couldn't even call a man back then a liar. Like if he'll ask you, like, "Are you calling me a lie?" And well, yeah, well, I'm gonna have to ask you to step outside, and somebody wasn't coming back in, like, and it was that serious, that's how, moralistically they stood on just their word, as a man. So, I mean, when you look at it today, it's really it's strange. A lot of things are strange that are happening today, like skinny jeans. When I was coming up, there weren't like something was wrong with you, man. If you would have came around the corner and somebody would have seen you with some jeans on that tight, but it's becoming okay for men to go out here in public with these clothes on, like skin. I mean, I'm talking about these are leggings, y'all. you know um and I was at the mall, and I just wanted some pants, man. But see, me, I come from a time frame where I want some space. Like, I mean, I need some room down there, pause. But I'm just saying, like, that's what I need some room. I can't be, bunched up like that, especially in my pants, man. But it's something that is, and everybody's doing it, um, man bags. When I was growing up, the less you had in your hands, the better. When I was coming up, like, we wasn't nobody. Unless the only time you really carried something is when you were at school, and you better had a book bag. I know my mom, you had to be carrying some books. I talked to a teacher today, and it was a couple years ago, about my son, because he came home, he ain't had no books. I'm like, where is your books at? I'm like, let's start right here. This is the problem right here. You ain't got no books. Where are your books? And he's like, they ain't give me no books. I'm like, what you mean they ain't give you no books? I called the school, like, literally, and I'm like, why this boy don't have no books? Like, and she's like, well, Mr. Jones, we don't use books anymore. I'm like, what do you mean you don't use books anymore? Well, we send them home with handouts. I'm like, a handout? I'm like, how's he supposed to learn if you don't have no books? Because with a book, you can cross reference, you can go back into a previous chapter, sitting right here in class. Like, I might have to flip to something while I'm sitting here in class that you asking that was in a previous chapter. And I'm flip to this. Okay, this is what it say, and then I can raise my hand, and answer the question. I mean, I wasn't. I really wasn't trying to be myself. I'm just saying, that's how it was. When it came down to like being in school and everything. Not me, some other kids. You know what I'm saying? But I wish I would have been doing like what I was supposed to do when I was in school back then, but I didn't. So another thing that we look at is these man buns. Like, listen, y'all. The weirdest thing today is to see a guy stop playing basketball. Like, we can be out here playing. I go to LA Fitness, and I've gone to the Y sometimes. And I even watch stuff. Like, and to see a guy stop playing the game of basketball so he can tie up his hair. That is really, really weird. I was just at Enterprise Rental Car the other day, and we were having a conversation. I said, look, man, I said, today, when you look at the game of basketball on TV, you got to stop to look. Like, you got to really look, because you're wondering, like, is this men or women on the screen playing basketball? Like, seriously. And I think the boy came from UConn. I want to say it was the boy that played at UConn, pretty good. But he went to the foul line, and my man had to, like, fling his head to get his hair out of his face to shoot the free throw. And I'm looking, I'm like, man, look at this crazy mess, man. Like, cause see, when times change, yes. But at the end of the day, look at what we're dealing with, y'all. I mean, seriously, you flinging your hair out your face, and nobody sees anything wrong with this stuff. Like, this is the thing that's bothering me. If you're spiritual, you can see where this thing is going. I mean, when I say spiritual, I guess if you follow the Bible, you try to live, that life. Some people don't. Some people like, the church is falling off. I mean, when you look at things like this stuff with TD Jakes being at somebody's at Diddy's parties and things like that. Things are just falling off. So I mean, you're not really taking anything for granted. I'm a avid listener of the man Geno Jennings. And I tell people all the time, when you can tell me or show me something that this man is saying wrong, we're not talking about personal feelings. You can feel how you want to feel about him. You know, he makes me mad sometimes, but I always have to turn around and go back and listen to him because he's telling you the truth. And that's the main thing. You want somebody to tell you the truth, you want them to tell you a lie. And that was one of the biggest things that I have always agreed with him. But when you look at what's happening, to men today, it's strange. And again, it's just strange that nobody finds it weird. Like I'm looking at it like, man, because I guess you have to have lived a certain length of time to realize it. Because when I was younger, a lot of the older men were upset with us, but that was more of like a respect thing, you know. He don't have enough respect to move out my way, or he didn't have enough respect to hold the door open, or I mean, it was more of a respect thing, how you talk to him and everything. And I understand today just from dealing with my own children, that I have an older son, and he was like, Dad, I'm upset. I'm like, what you upset about? He said, because you would have never let me get away with that when I was, growing up. And he was like, you softening up, Pop. But I think for me, it's more of a thing of like, we get older, and I'm not about to be sitting up here wasting my breath and stuff trying to beat on somebody. Like, what I look like being injured from trying to whoop you. Like I don't that's how I look at it. Um I have words, with a dude, because actually two different conversations. One, the guy was like, man, my woman, she got a sweet ride. She got a tight crib. She got the bomb job. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here, I'm listening to him, and I laughed. And he was like, "Well, what's funny?" I said, well, "It's just weird hearing you talk about that." He said, "What you mean? It's weird. What's weird about that, man? You know what I'm saying? What your woman got?" I said, "I don't know. I don't. I'm not even dating really right now, but I'm not worried about what a female has. That has nothing to do with me. Whether she pitches in or not, I still have to make sure this ship is floating. That's my job as a man. So at the end of the day, when I was hearing him talk this, it was like he, like I was telling him, when I was younger and I was growing up, I heard, this was something that females look for in men. You know, he was, well, a woman should be able to do this, and now this she can work now, she can do this, and I'm like, I'm just saying, I mean, that's your view of it, So I mean, I can't knock you for your view, but yeah, but you laugh, and I said, okay, well, I mean, well, let's call a spade a spade. You sound like a woman. And he got a little upset with me about that, but it is what it is. Another guy, this is a few years ago, where, he said something to me like, I want my woman to be able to bring something to the table. And I said, well, what do that mean exactly? You know, well, she should be able to help do something besides just sit there and be pretty. And, I said, well, what you want her to do exactly? Well, she should be able to help pay a bill or electric bill, a phone bill or something. I said, oh, okay. So you want her to help you do your job, and I think a man's stupid if he don't have his woman helping him, pay some bills or do something around the house. I said, well, you disrespecting a lot of men that came before you. Well, how I'm disrespecting men that came before me? I said, because there was a time when she wasn't even allowed in the workplace. So how was she going to help you pay bills and all of that? And she wasn't allowed in the workplace. A lot of women had home skills, uh, being able to make quilts, being able to make butter and jelly and, things like that from scratch, man. A lot of the things that females can't do today, and a lot of times today it's looked at upon females for being, is looked down upon for females to be homemakers, and I think that's wrong, for people to look down on females for that because that's a lost art, because you got to think about it. Those relationships back in those days lasted, I mean, the women had to put up with a lot, like they might realize that, he was down, at Mary Jo's house, and he shouldn't have been, or he took some money, went to the local juke joint. But at the end of the day, and that's how men were rated, because a lot of those men, they actually took care of home. You know, they would probably get $400 and they would bring $300 home, give it to her, and he'd take a little $100 and he probably wouldn't even come home tonight. I mean, he'd be in some hot water, but he was taking care of home. And sometimes, even though the woman knew, like, okay, well, Mary Jo, he's down there at her house, she might get $20 of that $100, but I got 300, and that was something, you know, he took care of home. He had children and everything else, But I will get to the women part in another segment. Right now we're gonna deal with these guys. You're starting to see a lot more guys even wearing women's clothing. I just saw a video on YouTube the other day where Busta Rhymes had on a red dress like thing. I saw Tyrese in pretty much the same outfit. Uh, I mean, this is crazy. This is what's going on. Like, and I gotta take my hat off to Dave Chappelle because he was refusing to put on a dress. And it's like the thing that I'm looking at is how they're trying to make, especially black men, put dresses on. This thing is really getting out of hand. But again, it almost ties into my last segment with the curse on the black race, but it's like we're not doing anything about it, especially in our own households. I remember my son. We were at a daycare. He was about 3 years old, and I took him into daycare. And the when I went in there was this dude, and he had like purple hair and some Prince boots on. And I'm like, hey, I pulled the woman to the side. I said, who is Buddy right there? And she said, oh, that's just this and this a person, and he's just a child coordinator. I said, the child coordinator for who? She said, for all the kids. He puts together. I said, ma'am, you know, he can't talk to my son. And she said, oh, he's okay. I said, listen, let me tell you something. If my son come home talking about he want to wear purple hair and some Prince boots, I'm going to tear this building down with him. You know. Oh, well, I mean, if you feel that way, then maybe you should take your son to another day. I said, you know what? You're exactly right. And I took my son up out of that daycare. And this is daycare, you guys. You know, and so it starts. They start off. Now you see commercials Like that, you can't go one day without seeing a commercial where they are promoting you being with another man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not listen. If whatever, however a person wants to live their life, let that be their decision to live their life that way. But don't. I'm not going to sit here and teach it to somebody. You know, there's a difference between somebody saying, "Hey, look, I'm gonna go this route." It's all a learning process, no matter how you want to look at it. But if a person says, "Hey, look, this is the way I want to go with this," there's not really much that you can say about that. But if you're sitting here and you're teaching it to them, from the time they're young and they grow up, you're not really giving them much of a choice. One of the things I've always felt was a person shouldn't be using drugs, smoking weed, and things like that with their own child. I've never taken my child and sat up here and rolled a blunt and started smoking it with them. When I did used to smoke weed, uh, I never did that. That's not, because that's something I feel, nobody did it with me. That wasn't even something that was going on in my household. That was something I ran into, and I believe first in the bathroom at my school in Walnut Ridge. You know, that was the first time. It actually started off with a cigarette. I wasn't even smoking a cigarette right. I was blowing out instead of inhaling. I was, and I thought I was doing something. And then when I actually did pull in, I almost lost a lung. But this is the stuff that's going on, and like I said, these guys are starting to wear more women's clothing out in public. There's look at little Jaden Smith. He was shopping. His daddy Will. He had to. Him and his mama. They had to take his credit card because he wouldn't stop shopping in the women's sections. And this is like when even when you listen, whether you believe in the Bible or not, everything comes around. All things happen again. It happens again. So even when you look at Sodom and Gomorrah, this has just gotten crazy. Like this isn't just Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah was one place. This is going on around the world now. So just look at where we're at. And like I tell people all the time, if when you look biblically, when you look at it, only 8 people survived the flood out of the whole world. 8 people. That's something to think about. It's getting so ridiculous that we even got the female boxer sitting up here talking about she can whoop the dude. And she said it about more than one guy. And don't get me wrong, I love Clarissa Shields. I just saw where they suspended her for marijuana, and I'm like, oh my goodness, if if you suspended her for marijuana, I mean, look at what she's doing, y'all. And you mean to try to tell me that she's doing this while she's high? Corey Holcomb said it best when he was talking about little what's her name? Shakari Richardson. And he said, that little girl sat right there and she was beating people the way she was beating them, and she was high. She had been smoking weed. And you better be glad she was smoking weed. If she wasn't smoking weed, what you think she was gonna do then? So that was something, to really behold, that whole little situation, these teenage boys today, you have to, you gotta make them go outside. Look, my son and them, they still haven't beat me in basketball yet. And they asked me, he said, man, we ain't never gonna beat dad. I said, there you go, that's the spirit, Well, we haven't, I said, well, how you gonna beat me? You don't want to go outside. When we were growing up, they told us that, you better be in this house before the street lights come on. And you know that you better be up in here before the street lights came on. That was like an unwritten rule. You know, these kids today, you gotta make them go outside. And that's what it is. That's why I say there'll never be another Michael Jordan. I mean, it's just that's. I wish they would stop this whole LeBron James, Michael Jordan debate. There's no debate with that, you all. There's no debate. I saw something the other day where they said that his size. We're talking about his size. We're not talking about athleticism, but that his size was said to have been the size of Larry Johnson. Back in those days, and I can agree with that. Sean Kemp might have been a little bit bigger than him. Um, Sean Kemp was a dog. There was just, one of the things about it with Michael Jordan is that you got to look not just at how great of a basketball player he was, you got to look at who he was doing this stuff to. You know, all the people that made basketball what it is today, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Clyde Drexler, Julius Erving, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Sean Kemp, Rasheed Wallace, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ralph Sampson, John Sally, Bill Laimbeer, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge. I mean, like, the list just goes on, you all. It just goes on. Reggie Miller, this list is so long. These are the people that made basketball what it is today, accolades and everything. And these were the people that everybody fashioned themselves after. So when you look at that, and the rules were different. Like, can you imagine not being able to touch Michael Jordan? What do you think was going to happen then? You can't even touch him. You know, like today, there's no hand check. Like, you used to be able to literally put your hand on somebody and guard them. You can't even do that today. You know, um, so it's so bad though. That this is what's going on, y'all. It's sad. It's a sad thing. Uh, you know, yeah, it's so bad, that I see, this thing is just getting out of hand. So I want people to weigh in on this, talk to me. You can send me messages later on any of these podcasts. Um, we got to start pulling this stuff together. We got to get back to our roots, you guys. It's time to unite. It's time to rise. You know, Again, my biggest thing, let's get together and get something. Stop. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jewelry is fine. I have a necklace and all of that, but I'm not about to sit up here and my problem is shoes, like I always say. But I'm learning. I found a site called Alive Shoes. You make your own shoes, and I'm about to start looking into that. But let's buy our own products, promote our own neighborhoods. Listen, y'all, I'm your host, Tad Al. It was good spending another 30 minutes with you all. I need y'all to start talking to me so I can talk back and we can make this thing really pop, you know. But this is Epic Guy Radio, y'all. WTIM here. I'm your host, Tad Al, and we are out of here. Mwah.